Hi, I wanted to talk about the latest Star Trek movie, dubbed Star Trek 11. Now, first of all, I'd like to say I'm going to be referencing one of my favorite internet celebrities, Doug Walker, also known as the Nostalgia Critic or Chester A. Bum. So I'm not ripping off of his stuff, I'm just referencing some of the things he said about it that I completely agree with. Now, I desperately wanted to go into this movie hating it, but I did my best to keep an open mind. In fact, it took me seeing the movie 3 times before I could get a solid opinion either way. Now, I think it was a good idea to get away from the TNG era and all that. But doing an alternate timeline that means almost nothing to Star Trek, I don't think that was J. Abrams' best idea. But here goes. We open seeing the USS Kelvin under attack by a Romulan mining ship. I'll talk about that later. And after not a bad battle scene, they evacuate the ship. Lieutenant Kirk rams the ship into the Romulan vessel. And we see all these escape shuttles flying away as the Romulan ship's disabled. Then we cut to Iowa, where young James T. Kirk is in this classic muscle car and driving like at least 80-90 miles an hour down a desert road. Now this scene, when I saw this scene in the trailer, I thought, what the fuck? This is not Star Trek. Now to reference another guy, Confused Matthew, who talked about this scene before the movie came out, Star Trek is not an action franchise. What the hell do they think they're doing? Never has slow motion been used in Star Trek to enhance an action sequence. At least not in the films. But getting past that, well, then the next scene was where they cut to the bar. That wasn't a half bad scene, but I didn't like how they brought in. I like Bruce Greenwood. He's an excellent actor, but Captain Pike was not the first CEO of the Enterprise. No matter what timeline you're in, it was a Captain Robert April, if I remember correctly. But I love seeing him before his crippling accident. Now, next is Starfleet Academy, the Kobayashi Maru. We did not need to see the Kobayashi Maru. We'd already seen it 9 movies ago. We knew exactly what was going to happen, that he reprogrammed the simulation so it was possible to rescue the ship, and we knew that in the end he got a commendation. In fact, no, it's for original thinking. It was a waste of time. And seeing him sitting there eating a goddamn apple, what the hell? But what I did like about that scene is how he didn't let anyone in onto his hack, as I call it. Not even Bones. But other than that, that scene was completely useless. Now, the next relevant thing is where they get the distress call from Vulcan at the last 5 seconds, and the cadets are sent to active duty aboard starships. Where the hell did that come from? Anyway, seeing the Enterprise, how they didn't quite show it until after we see people's reactions, and how it kind of came up through the space talk, which I assume is an earlier version of Utopia Planitia, but it doesn't matter. It was cool. It was not easy at its last 5 seconds. It was not easy to see the Enterprise, to make the Enterprise at the last 15 seconds. It couldn't have been easy to make the Enterprise look like the one from the 60s, but also not look too much like the motion picture and the first 6 movies, Enterprise. But other than certain little things, like the shuttle bay, it didn't look right at all. And with the bridge, little things like that irritated me to no end, because they didn't even resemble at all what the ship should have looked like. But it was still pretty cool. And hearing some of the original Star Trek music was cool. Now, I found it funny how when they were going to warp, trying to go to warp, Sulu forgot to disengage the external inertial dampeners, which doesn't make much sense, because if you think about it, the external inertial dampeners should have been active when they went to warp, so they wouldn't feel the jolt of the faster than light speed, because that's what inertial dampeners are. They prevent you from feeling the inertia when you're flying at high speeds. But it was still pretty funny. Now, when they arrived at Vulcan, it was nice that they got rid of the rest of the fleet and focused on Enterprise. But it would have been nice to have seen a big space battle like that. We haven't seen a good space battle with a bunch of Federation starships since Deep Space Nine. So that would have been cool, but okay, whatever. The drill. The drill was the most brainless, unimaginative thing I have ever seen in Star Trek. Why the hell would you need that for mining? Something that powerful? Besides, the time period they came from, they weren't that reckless when it came to mining. Even the Romulans. But destroying Vulcan, that wasn't a bad touch. But what I think they could have done better was had at least some sort of Vulcan defense, whether it was orbital turrets, space station, or even Vulcan starships like we've seen in Enterprise. But anyway, after Vulcan is destroyed... Actually, before I go that far, I want to comment on when Spock goes into that council chamber to rescue his parents and the council leaders. That huge statue. I can only assume that was Surak. Surak. Yeah, Surak. But I couldn't tell. It's not as if there wasn't enough footage of it. It just looked nothing like him. And there's really... he'd be the only Vulcan known that they would think that highly of, because he gave them logic.